Should I switch jobs during a recession? Well, the answer is yes and no. So sorry, it's a bit complicated because it really depends on your current situation and the current company that you work in. So if you want to maximize your career and avoid making a really huge career mistake during a recession, I highly suggest you watch the full video so you know exactly what to do in your exact specific situation, because not everybody has the same context and background. But if you're too lazy to watch this full video, well, the short answer is no. You should not leave your job during recession. You should just wait and roll the dice and see if you'll get laid off, and then frantically search for a job for the next 2 to 6 months and wonder why you didn't watch this whole video. So if you don't want to make any huge career mistakes during a recession, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel to get more weekly career advice, and you should share this video with a friend. That way it'll be your act of kindness for the day, and then they can pay it forward. Alright, as a disclaimer before we dive into the full details of the video, I want to point out that you should not try to switch your career during a recession. I can make a full video explaining this, and if you want that, drop a comment down below. Alright, so like any really tough decision in life, there's really two options. Yes, you should do it, and no, you shouldn't do it. So first, let's talk about certain scenarios where the answer is yes, you should switch jobs during a recession. And the first one is if you're working at a company that has just announced layoffs in your specific department. Now, companies will be doing layoffs during a recession. This is very normal. Sometimes it's a very conservative financial play so that they can hopefully withstand the recession and be able to retain the majority of their employees and then hire more once the economy turns back around. Now, they are going to start layoffs in specific organizations though, typically in the non-revenue generating functions like human resources, unfortunately. And so if you are seeing layoffs in your specific department, then you should probably try to beat this to the punch and already start interviewing. If you are not seeing layoffs in your department, but their company is doing layoffs in general, but it doesn't affect your immediate group, I do not think it is now the right time for you to start looking externally. The next situation is if you work at a smaller company within your industry and your company has stopped hiring. So if you have a hiring pause right now and you are at one of the smaller companies that is not one of the giant top biggest companies in your specific industry, I think you should consider getting a job because you're not really as well funded. You don't have the type of cash flow to withstand a long-term economic recession. And so your job will probably have a higher likelihood of being at risk than if you were at a large, stable company with big cash reserves. The next situation is if your dream company gives you a job offer. Whether it's a recession or not, if this is your dream company that you've always wanted to work at and they have headcount and they're giving you a job offer, you should take it regardless of the economic conditions because this is your dream company and you may not get another opportunity like this again. And so I think you should take full advantage of it because you will regret not trying it. The next reason, which I think goes without saying, is if your current boss sucks, you should go out and get a new job even if it's during a recession, because having a really bad boss or a really horrible manager is going to make your life miserable and it's going to have long-term consequences on your career growth as well as your mental health. And it is worth leaving the company, getting a better manager, even if the company or the economic times are a little uncertain. It's better to be happy than miserable and safe. Next, if you do work at one of the considered top tier companies or the biggest companies in your specific industry, but you're noticing that all of the other big companies in your specific industry have announced layoffs or have hiring freezes, and you believe that your company is most likely going to be next, because we have to be honest, typically, if it affects most of the companies in an industry, it will be industry-wide. There is no company that will ever be safe in an entire industry. So if you're noticing this industry trend, I think you should consider getting a job in a different industry. Don't switch careers, right? If you're doing marketing, it's not your time to go and do finance or accounting. But I think if you're doing marketing and you're noticing that there's layoffs at other companies in your industry, you should consider an industry switch. All right, so now let's talk about situations when you should not switch companies during a recession. Now, the first situation where you should not leave the company is if your company had layoffs, You survived, you were not laid off, but you ended up getting a bit of a promotion in responsibilities. Now, I'm not talking about you just got a higher job title or maybe you got a little bit of bump in pay. I'm talking about if people were laid off, like your manager was let go, and you were quote unquote promoted to step up in a managerial role and you have bigger responsibilities, more scope, you should not leave your company even though your company just had layoffs. The reason is you are now basically getting a mini promotion with very little work put in. Now, you still have to survive, meet expectations, and do the job at this higher level, but this is going to be massively beneficial for your career. This is actually how people can have huge career growth progress in a very short amount of time. We've all seen some executives at our companies who are so much younger than everybody else. Sometimes you may see an executive who've only been working for 10, maybe 12 years, and you're wondering how are they at the same level as people who've been working for 30 years? Well, it's because of situations like this, where companies have had layoffs, they've been short-staffed, you've been asked to step it up, basically, and if you're able to perform and succeed and crush it at this higher level, that is how other companies are going to recognize you at a higher level. You're going to be able to progress much faster up the corporate ladder, even though your company had layoffs. So you're going to make the best of this unfortunate situation. If you're in this situation, you should not switch jobs, and that is if you are at a top tier company in your industry or one of the biggest companies in your industry, and you look at your balance sheet and you have a lot of cash reserves at your company, you should not switch jobs right now. You are at a very safe spot. Your company has the cash, meaning they are able to fund projects, pay their employees, make payroll for a long period of time. And it is not worth the risk of giving all of this safety up to go work somewhere else where you may end up being laid off, the project may get canceled, defunded, etc. It's far better to try and ride out as much of the recession as you can at a large, stable, safe company. You should not leave your company and get a new job just because you didn't get a huge raise or bonus this year. Now, I'm really talking to all of you spoiled tech folks and engineers out there who are expecting a 20% raise every single year, even during a recession. You need to keep in mind what the macroeconomic situation is. There are lots of people outside of tech and outside of your bubble that literally have no job and are trying to struggle to put food on the table for their families. And when everything around you is burning, you don't want to be the one that's like, well, why am I not getting a 50% raise? I only make $700,000 a year. I should be making $800,000. You should be grateful to have a job during a recession. So you should not leave just because you wanted a 20% bonus or a 20% increase and you only got a 10% increase. You need to be grateful and think about the macroeconomic situation. You should also not switch companies right now if you are working for a top priority project within your company. If you are working on a team or a product area or you're supporting a group that is well prioritized, the leadership team talks about your project or your team all the time. The leadership team is still investing in your area by hiring during a recession. There's lots of many ways to tell that you're working for a top priority project within your company, right? And so if you are on or supporting one of those top priority projects, you should not leave right now because you have the safest job within your entire company. You should also not switch companies during a recession if you are currently on a PIP or a performance improvement plan, or if you just had your annual performance review and you got a bad performance rating. You should not leave your company right now during a recession because if you have gotten a bad review or you're not performing well and you want to go work somewhere else, and if they run a reference check, it's not going to come back well for you. So it's far better to turn things around with your performance, get a better performance rating in the next cycle, and then try and leave. You don't want to leave when you are a poor performer because that's how you get lowballed. That's how you may even get rejected a lot. So you should try to turn your performance around before trying to exit. You should also not leave your company and get a new job during recession if the new company that gave you a job offer is making you a lot of future promises about your role or your compensation or your responsibilities. Basically, if you're not really happy with the role itself or the pay, and they tell you, don't worry, we'll fix that in the future when you join us. Just Come on and join us. Trust us. It's all going to work out. We're going to take care of it in the future. If you're getting those promises, most of the time they are false. And most companies never really live up to the promises that they make you because they can't put anything in writing. They're not legally bound to it, and they're just trying to get you in the door. They probably just had layoffs, and they just need to make sure that they hire enough people back so that they can keep the ship running. But they don't have the budget to pay you, or they don't give you exactly what you want. You should never take a job based on false future promises. So if you've watched this video and you're now thinking to yourself, okay, I am in one of these situations and I do need to switch companies, you're going to want to make sure you can ace these interviews, because during a recession, your competition is huge. You're going to be competing with everyone else who does the same job as you that was also laid off. So you're going to need to make sure that your interviewing skills are top notch. So go ahead and watch this video right here so you can ace all your upcoming interviews. All right, I hope this video was helpful. I'm so sorry if you were affected by the recession that is happening right now, but look to us in the Career Shakers community. We're gonna do our best to help you. I'm gonna put out weekly videos to help you get prepared, help you get a new job, and don't be afraid to ask us for help in our Facebook group, in the comments, or in the LinkedIn group. I've got all those links down below. We wanna be as supportive to you as possible. Thank you all for watching, and don't be afraid to shake things up when it's appropriate.